Countess Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome! It is time to continue my discussion on anime series, where I review them, and let you know how you can use them in your BESM games, your Big Eyes Small Mouth games, how you can adapt them, and play them using the basic game system. Of course, as always, I will continue to remind you, you can always use this with another role-playing game system. I'm just going to give you suggestions how you can basically set it up. A lot of the ideal of what kind of concepts would fit very well to an RPG. Up to you to adapt the system after that. BESM's easy. But let's start out because I got two from this season. The latest Rage of Bahamut, and of course, Bolt, sequel to Naruto. And then I've got another suggestion from you folks, D.N.Angel. And then I got one back from going back in time in my expose of those, Amagi Brilliant Park. But let's start with the two from this season, with of course, Boruto. So this is actually a sequel to Naruto. It's as easy as that. And we're focusing on Naruto's son, Boruto. And the series is taking place that him and his contemporaries, who are of course all children of the characters from the last series, are going into the Ninja Academy. And they're focusing on their time trying to become ninjas in a world where ninjas have changed. It's a lot more at peace. Things have settled down since the end of the series before, and things have almost modernized more to a degree. So it's a different world than what Naruto, kind of his character, grew up in. And we're focusing on his son in this new world, and he doesn't have the same goals or aspirations as his father did. He's got his own sort of way that he wants to do things. But it focuses on their transitions and growth within this different world, while still trying to somewhat live up to the legacy of all their parents, because that shadow is still over them. We saw how that series ended and how it was a very big ending. You've got a legacy to live up to a little bit now. So if I'm talking about the genres, of course it's in action. You always have fights, kind of ninja fights still exist. You can't get away from them when it comes to Naruto, and new and interesting ninja abilities. So it's also got a level of adventure to it. The idealism of kind of traveling, exploring, learning gives you that adventurous feel. And also then it's ninja. Because guess what? It's a ninja series. Just as much as Naruto is a ninja series, so is this one. Now I'm rating this one a 4. You know, I stuck through all the Naruto series and I did see the end of it finally. And I'm enjoying this decently. It's an interesting sequel. I could see it going very well or very terrible, but for now, I think it's pretty decent, and I would definitely recommend checking it out, especially if you were a fan of Naruto, and some of the better parts of it, may I note. Because there were some, definitely parts of it, some sort of filler, which were pretty terrible. So, anyway, now if you are using this in a BESM game, I recommend 200 points. You're going to make your characters a group of students at the academy. They're all joining the academy for their own reasons in a way, whether it be family or something else. And they're learning to become ninjas, or learning the abilities of ninjas. They're basically getting along in this new and exciting world and trying to exist within it, that the evolution has occurred. And it's going to be a coming-of-age story to a degree, kind of learning to get along with each other, learning new skills, learning some different parts about their own selves along the way, and perhaps coming up with bonds, which might end up forming into the various ninja teams for when they kind of evolve into actually being productive members of the society of the village as itself. And it will be this entire storyline, which will be very important for your characters to go on. That's the point of it. It's a longer coming-of-age story than we saw in Naruto. That was very short before they moved into that sort of next step. This is that early step, before then. The true time into schooling. So that's why I find it a little bit more interesting. But this one will be a fun one to try to run. Now let's move on, though, and let's talk about Rage of Bahamut, in particular, Virgin Soul, the one that came out now. Now, overall, Rage of Bahamut is based upon a battle card game called, of course, Rage of Bahamut. Both of them focus on this world where angels, demons, and humans all exist. And they were almost devastated by this terrible dragon named Bahamut, and they united to basically seal him away. We focused the first series on Favreau and the allies he meets along the way, who is this bounty hunter working for Bacchus. And basically, he gets into this entire storyline of something trying to resurrect Bahamut, and the dangers behind that lead to a threat that though once the three races were united, they've sort of settled into this kind of war between all of them, almost the demons and the angels fighting each other with humans in the middle, unfortunately. And this entire thing evolves over the course of the series into a new threat against all of them that they have to sort of unite again. In the second season, we've taken place years later, now that Bahamut's threat has finally once again subsided. Humanity has rebuilt itself and has exerted its dominance over both angels and demons. We focus on Nina, who is this character that's now moved to the capital of humanity, and we eventually do find out she has some kind of secret. She's trying to live her life there. She sort of tries to be a bounty hunter a little bit, but it's kind of a weird thing with that. It's a job that's not needed as much anymore. But personally, she can change into a dragon. She doesn't always control it. So there's where the interesting part of that series comes in, as we focus on her and this new dynamic between the three races that's changed along, with humans being dominant. And the fact that now they have their dominance, they like expressing it, after all the years of basically being put under by the demons and angels. Now, of course, for the genres, I'd call this one a fantasy. It's got magic, dragons, demons, angels, all kinds of things. It's oftentimes action. There are huge battle set pieces, battles between various forces as both series go along. And of course, it always has this adventure feeling to it. In the first series, they traveled a lot more than they have in the second series. But there's this always idea of traveling and journeying and learning yourself wherever you go, which is a very adventure series kind of feel to it. Now, I also rate this one a 4. I enjoyed the first one a lot, and the second one I've been enjoying pretty well too. It's got a kind of interesting storyline, and it kind of draws me in the kind of reversals that have happened within the series. Having seen the first one, it makes me appreciate the second one more. That's kind of interesting little thing about that one. Now, if you're going to use this in BESM game, I recommend 400 points. You're going to make your characters bounty hunters working basically for Bacchus. Now, the fact is, your game master can place it in any era within the entire purview of the universe of Rage of Bahamut. It could be earlier than the first series, during the first series, during the second series, somewhere in between. In fact, if you wanted to wait till the second series was over, you could take place after there. So you can see you can place your characters anywhere. Granted, there are certain points in time where bounty hunting is a much more lucrative profession than others, but it still exists out there. And the fact is, they're in a way maintaining the peace while trying to basically earn a living a little bit, capturing these bounties, getting some money that'll help them live to the next day, effectively. They will still have to deal with whatever overarching themes exist because of the setting that the game master has chosen. Each of these kind of time periods you can place it in has their own advantages and disadvantages, their own problems that the players are going to have to face and adapt to along the way. They're going to have to get along with them, solve some of them, be confronted by some of those very problems which confronted the characters in the series, and also overcome them themselves. And that's going to be at the crux of their entire adventures over the course of the series. Well, your series of adventures. Now let's talk about D.N.Angel. So D.N.Angel focuses on Daisuke. Daisuke at the start of the series attempts to confess his love to his crush and gets rejected. And then he effectively transforms into the Phantom Thief Dark Mousy. He learns that, of course, within his bloodline, they are cursed to continually have this sort of transformation that occurs. That should they be rejected by the one that they love, basically the curse comes to light. And the curse doesn't go away until they effectively have gotten the one that they love to love them. There you go. Their unrequited crush must become requited. So Daisuke then has to balance out his life as a phantom thief and as a normal student. And anytime he kind of feels emotions for his crush, he transforms. And anytime his transformated states of Dark Mousy kind of begins to feel a kind of love-based emotions, he transforms back. So you can see there's this kind of interesting repercussions of them changing back and forth between each other, with a little bit of romance in there and a little bit of adventure in there. And that's where we talk about, of course, the genres. Of course, it's a fantasy. Dark Mousy has kind of special powers, and it's a curse that sort of inserted him into Daisuke's bloodline. That, in a way, Daisuke does want to overcome the curse on Dark Mousy, but he also wants to overcome the curse on himself. So it's more like, I want to solve myself, but maybe I want to also help out this figure that lives inside me to never return to my family. In a way, then, it's also a romantic drama. There's a level of romance that exists there because of the loves that are seen between them, but they're unrequited, so of course there's a level of drama to it. Now, I had a choice here of going for more Phantom Thief or for more Magical Boy. Both are actually pretty good genres here. And I feel like the Phantom Thief components is not as important the fact that he transforms like a Magical Boy. It's a Magical Boy anime. He has that little transformation between them, and they transform back down. Granted, he transforms into a kind of Phantom Thief, which is to a degree a bad guy, but it's still a transformation. Now, I rate this one a 3. I didn't see a lot of the anime. I read a bunch of the manga in this one. So, I am familiar with it on the manga side a lot more. It's one of the ones I got a lot of reading in for this one. But the fact is, I don't mind it. But again, some of the romantic drama portions of it can kind of get annoying for me too, just because of my personal opinions. But if you like that sort of thing, I would definitely recommend this one, because it's still a really good series for every other component to it. Now, if you're using this in a BESM game, I'd recommend 300 points. You can make your characters a team of Phantom Thieves. And just not any Phantom Thieves, they're all going to be cursed. There you go. Now, the exact natures of the curse and how they trigger and how they change is going to be entirely up to each of your players' design along the way. They're going to make their own custom version of a curse that they're going to be afflicted with, and then effectively, when all the players have basically transformed, they should be to a degree similar. So have your players discuss the curses so that they at least have a level of similarity and connecting themes, so that you can easily have them all transform at a certain point in time and then go off on some kind of phantom-based thief activity, so they're balancing out their normal lives, most likely as students, and their lives as phantom thieves, going on those. And on the flip side, you're going to have to deal with the police going after them constantly and having their kind of cursed folks, cursed to try to defeat them constantly, as basically an enemy team. Similar to how Dark Mousy has his own sort of reverse in the police side that's also a cursed bloodline trying to go against him constantly. You'll have effectively a team of those on the police's side. Balance out player for player. Just to keep things a little interesting. Let's move on, though, and talk about our last one for today. Amagi Brilliant Park. We focus on Seiya, who's this genius perfectionist who one day gets basically asked by this girl to accompany him to this amusement park. He goes there and he learns that it's shutting down and that they want him, because of his massive powers of organization, his ability to basically fix a lot of things similar to that, to help them. It turns out there are a number of refugees from a magical land called Maple Land. And coming here to our world, to Earth, they can only survive by gathering magical energy. And the magical energy can only be gathered by, of course, the happiness of those that visit the park. Basically getting people visiting the park and becoming happy there, they can use that to gather magical energy and survive in our world. So now we have Seiya focusing on becoming a manager for them and basically fixing the park before it would shut down, because it's got a certain date that they basically have an ultimatum. You have to get this many visitors by this time or we're shutting down. There you go. So that's the entire gist of the series, is Seiya trying to save the park while dealing with the interesting cast of magical characters which live there. Now, of course, it's a fantasy. They're from a magical realm. They have magic powers. They're magical beings. Some of them are kind of more monstery things because they're magical creatures. It's also more of a romantic comedy because Seiya kind of develops relationships with a couple of the female characters there to a degree, and there's a lot of comedic things happening that are both related to those and the general organization of the entire series. Funny things happen. Funny things happen when they deal with the fact that they have these kind of developing relationships between some of the characters that are not very overt developments. They're very slow developments. That's why it's more of a romance comedy. You know, it hits it there, but not to a huge degree. Not too much. I would also call it management. This is a genre I'm just sort of putting together here. It's a management one. It's all about him managing and making sure to fix a lot of the management-based problems and problems within the park. So you can see there's a level of actual management to the series in the way that Seiya does things. So you can actually kind of get an idea about a little bit about management from this, which is kind of interesting kind of juxtaposition there. An interesting kind of thing that's occurring. Now I rate this one a 4. I found it very interesting with the entire management aspect, and the comedy was great. It was an interesting kind of setup for it, and I didn't mind the romance overall. It wasn't hitting you in the face with it. It was kind of subtly in there, and it fit very well with the entire comedic aspects that it made it not too terrible. So I did enjoy it a lot. So if you're using this in a BESM game, I'd recommend 200 points. You're going to make your characters a group that are trying to save the park. Now, regardless of the exact origins of your characters, if you want them to be from Maple Lamb or someone like Seiya that's brought in, all of them are working together in order to save the park and to keep it going. It's the point that they're all trying to improve the park, fix problems that might incur in the park, get more visitors to come in. They might have to balance out a little bit of like normal lives, especially if you have characters more like Seiya that might be students. Of course, they'll also deal with the bonds of each other along the way, and it's going to be this interesting juxtaposition between trying to manage the park, maybe manage some normal lives, and all the problems that might come up along the way that they're going to have to overcome. So that's it for this week. I introduced you to 4 more anime series. Of course, each of these, I've told you about how you can use them in your BESM games. But if you really wanted to, you could adapt them to another RPG system. There are many systems that it would work very well with, but it's up to you to determine which one it is and to adapt the proper rules to it and to have it work out fine. That's going to be entirely up to you. Again, I've just come up with a framework, and the framework for the setting that you might be able to use, and you can adapt these any way you want. Up to you. But if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave it in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It's just for the channel, the empire, the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you go check out my Patreon. Link in the description below. But regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.